Welcome all and a very good morning. And this is your Girish, VP Volunteer Development. We have Sonali Kedkar, she is AVP Volunteer Development. Her efforts to make this event happen is highly appreciated. We will start today's webinar in 5 minutes. Before that, let me take you through our agenda. Before that, if any participant wants to ask any questions, please type in your questions in chat box. Questions will be answered by our speaker. At the end of today's session forum, we will have question and answer sessions for 10 minutes, followed by vote of thanks and certificate giving. Please note, video details will be provided to all our participants through mail ID as per attendance. Let me introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Jatin Kaji. Mr. Jatin Kaji is BE Production Engineering, MBA Finance, CPIM certified in Production and Inventory Management from EPICS, USA and PMP. He is having around 30 years of cross-functional experience in manufacturing industry and IT. In IT, he has executed over 50 projects in arena of enterprise applications and IT assessment audit. Currently, Mr. Jatin is leading the SAP team of Supreme Industries Limited. His cross-domain experience spanning manufacturing, supply chain and IT gives him an insight into effective use of IT to digitize transform business processes. Mr. Jatin has worked extensively in enterprise IT and RPA. We will be heavily drawing upon this practical experience during the presentation. Mr. Jatin is also election nominating committee chair for the year 2022 and 23. Today, Jatin ji will talk on the topic Robotics Process Automation II. Over to Mr. Jatin, sir.
Thanks a lot, Girish, for the kind introduction.
Yeah, thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Good morning, participants. Thanks a lot for attending an event and drawing upon a willpower to be there on a Sunday morning. I really appreciate that. Before I start, I would like to talk why this event is called RPA 2 and why not RPA. See, around couple of forums ago, Mr. Akshay Kulkarni presented a seminar on Robotic Process Automation RPA. In that seminar, he introduced the RPA and he went on a technical track. In today's presentation, I'll draw upon that foundation as well as try to keep it independent also, because I know many of the participants may not have attended the earlier presentation. So I'll keep it independent. I'll introduce to the RPA and we'll go on a managerial track, mainly about the process selections, guidelines, what to do, what not to do. And I'll be stressing upon a couple of areas. One of the area is, if I have got an IT system, I can do automation within the IT system, and I can do automation using robotic process automation. What are the sweet spots of both the systems? When to do automation within the IT system and when to go for RPA. That's a one track where we'll be discussing in detail. A second track is, when we buy any IT system, there is a licensing agreement with the product principal. And typically the product principal believes that a user of my IT system is an actual human being and not a robot. And they are quite aggressive about protecting that stuff, because if a robot is doing work of 3 human beings, it's a revenue leakage for them. So what are the licensing tricks which we may use? And this licensing part is common for even automation done within the ERP or an IT system, as well as if we go to robotic process automation. It's a kind of a generic thing about automation. If I am doing an automation in an IT system, how should I not fall flat on a licensing compliance, and the product principal should not come with a hefty bill at a later date? So these are the broad areas of my presentation. So let me share my screen. and start the presentation. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
I believe recording has started, and I hope all of you don't mind the session being recorded.
Yeah, recording started.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the agenda is introduction to RPA, where I'll be covering up basic fundamentals so that those who have not been familiar with the RPA are brought onto the stream. Then how can we select the process? Where where to look for the process selection? That's the next topic I'll be covering. Then there are advanced considerations about sweet spots of RPA versus native automation. And lastly, the license compliance. The way I'll be doing is it you can shoot your questions in the chat window at any time. And at the end of every topic, we'll take a pause and answer the questions on that topic before going ahead. The break will be after process completion of process selection and Q&A thereof. Okay. So let me go ahead. Let's start from a very, very fundamental basic thing. What is an RPA or a robotic process automation? Henceforth, I'll be using the term RPA only. RPA is training digital robots to execute process using same steps, business rules, and systems that a person does today. A big definition. What does it mean is RPA is a kind of a system which does a kind of screen scraping. It notes down exactly what you are doing, the user is doing to execute the system, and it mimics the human action to the T. So if you are doing whatever you are doing, it gets recorded. Let's say while doing the recording, the human went to a, let's say for a heck of it, the human went to a website and he surfed the net for say 5 minutes. That also will get recorded, and the RPA thinks that surfing in the process, surfing the net for 5 minutes is the part of the process. So when we prepare the process documentation, it has to be very, very detailed and very, very elaborate. We have to denote every action. So let me pause it over here and show you how we give the input to the robotic process system. Okay, so okay. So let me open a simple thing. Where is it there? Okay, so let's not get into the names, etc., etc. I am just skipping through. No, no, not this one again. Sorry, sorry, I am not getting it. Okay, I am taking you through a. No, not this, not this. Where is this? I am taking through a very simple process. This was developed using Oracle EBS. So if you see the steps also, they are in very detailed things. Firstly, the human being does some sort of a agreement-wise funding determination. He logs into the system. He selects a role. He opens a screen. He funds something. He does tick, 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 tick. So now if you go through the detailed thing, pick up the file from this location, insert the pivot table, exactly how the pivot table will get created, which rows to use that, rename the file, then do pivot table, this. So there is a lot of detail which is being done before a file is massaged and made ready for the system. Then how to log in? Very simple thing, but click on IE or Microsoft Edge, type in URL, user ID, password, screenshot, so on and so forth. It will go on. So this is how detailed we have to prepare the documentation so that the RPA developer, when he goes along with that details, can follow the things and do the needful. Okay, so what are the characteristics of robotic process automation? The first characteristic is it does not touch your core system. Whatever is done at a GUI level. The current process, as is with all its idiosyncrasies, will get automated. RPA will not improve the process. It will only automate the existing process. The RPA does not require any system API or any coding within the core system. And hence, the bot deployment is much faster than a automation. And if you use the commercially available bots, that is like Automation Anywhere or UiPath, then it comes with inbuilt security, scalability, analytics, reporting, so on and so forth. So every action a user takes inside that bot gets recorded and you get lot of analytical data. How much time it is taking for a bot to execute the process, mean, max, where the time is wasted, so on and so forth. Typically, when a human being is doing the process, there is no analytics available. At best, you can know that human being at the end of the day has done so much of work. He or she has created so many sale order or booked so many bills. But hour by hour breakup or time taken per document, such finer granularity is not available. So what are the prerequisites for RPA? The first is it should have a structured digital data. Any IT system has a structured digital data defined in a tabular structure, so it can work. And secondly, the business rule should be clear and well defined. There cannot be a business rule that I go and ask my superior what to do now. That's not. Am I perfectly audible? Someone has just said that my voice is feeble. Is that
No,
so?
sir. No, sir.
No,
It is
you are
perfectly
audible,
audible.
sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
No, because someone has just commented. So, okay, let me increase my voice. Hello, is my voice better now? Can someone confirm?
Sir, we are able to hear you very clearly.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Naushad ji. Okay. So what are the benefits now? The first thing is that cost of the bot. It's not prohibitively expensive. Depending upon the bot, the license cost may vary between $1,000 to $10,000. So it max cost per bot could be say 8 lakh rupees per annum. And for 8 lakh rupee, you get a digital employee who works for you 24/7 without taking any leave and can work on n number of tasks. See, if I am an employee in, let's say, accounts payables, I cannot create a purchase order or a sale order. Whereas what we can train that you complete this task, then go somewhere else and do something else. Another thing is speed of the work. The bot speed is 2 to 10x. This time saving and the productivity gain typically gives us the benefit like increased turnaround time. The bot will give you the better tags and hence we can better work within our SLS. Just to give an example, let's take a very simple bot of password resetting. Let's say I have forgotten my password and I raise the ticket on my ticketing tool, or if my organization is a bit IT is maturity is slightly lower, I drop an email to someone. The human being reads the mail and human being sets the ticket, sets my password and it replies on the mail. This may take time because human being might be taking a break or might be busy with something else. Whereas if there is a bot, what bot will do? It will man the queue at interval of every X minutes, reads the mail, does the password reset and replies back. So I'll get my password really fast. So that gives me a better user experience. I can get on with my works earlier than the prior case. I don't have to call up the help desk. Hey, somebody can look it because I am stuck. One more thing is consistency. Robot can't deviate. Either they'll work or they'll stop work. They cannot take shortcuts. They cannot go into lanes by lanes. So if the work is done by robo, it will be perfect. If they encounter some error, they'll report it to humans and they'll stop the work midway. A typical case could be, let's say, robo is, let's take an example of a forex bot. So what that bot is doing is, it is going into some website, reads the rates between INR and N number of currencies, records it in an Excel, logs in into our core financial system and updates the rate. If the bot tries to go onto that designated website and that website is down, bot will shoot off the mail to the IT administrator and abort the work. So bot will not make mistake. If there were a human being, the human being may say that if website X is down, let me go to exercise Y or Z and get the rates. Bot will not take such initiative with its consequences. Okay. So if you look at it, what are our value creation opportunity? Current cost, from there is a saving of human effort saved. please note that typically what we mean by human effort saved is we are not going to go for mass retrenchment, but we'll free up the humans to do something else. A typical presumption is organizations are growing and a human person, when freed from a mundane task, can be trained and given a much value added task. The speed, throughput, these are our three cost reduction opportunities. If there are ever errors are reduced and compliance is better, then rework cost gets saved, which is our avoidance opportunity. And value creation opportunity could be in area of data accuracy as well as improved employee morale, because some mundane tasks go away. So this is the saving and benefit pie created via robotic process automation. Let me dwell over here for one of side of my experience. So far, people are finding it very difficult to automate the process using bot and do a very big chunk of the work, because processes are getting automated, small bits and pieces are getting automated, and every drops get added up and it adds to the kitty in terms of the human hours saved. But so far no one has, in my knowledge, done such a substantial thing that has resulted in manpower reduction of by any meaningful amount. And that should be a sign of, what shall I say, comfort for us, because bots are not going to steal our jobs. Okay, so how the typical automation works? In a traditional automation, we do as is, then we do to be, then we do the changes, do the integration, testing, testing in one or more environments, unit testing, integrated testing, user acceptance testing, and then deploy. So typically the process is long drawn out, costly. In RPA, all we do is we take the requirement definition. This will be slightly longer than the regular because we have to go to the field level requirement definition. We have to denote which field we are filling the value, from where we are getting the value. And the moment this BRD requirement definition is signed off, we train the robots to interact at a UI level and automate the process. So the process is much faster and hence cheaper. If we compare human versus digital workforce, what is the procedure for a human? We have to recruit, onboard, train human, pay them the salary, the benefits, leaves, whatnot. Then we have to provide them facilities, laptop, provide them the access, training, and they are up and running. Whereas for RPA, we have procured an annual license, installed the software one time, provided the access and authorization to the system, train the bot, and bots are up and running. Bot does not require a 90 days joining notice period to join our organization. Before that, they are up and running. This is a kind of a typical thing where we can see the heat density. The ones in the green are area where we can do lot of work. Red are low and we won't be able to do much. Just to give an example, in order to cash credit note or debit note, the bot can generate it. But should the bot generate it? It's a bigger question. Because credit note and debit note is typically a human decision and it takes the maximum deliberation and time. The moment we have decided that the credit note for X amount be raised on customer Y, the execution is very minuscule. So it becomes a red area. But same in the order management, punching the order, etc. is a sweet spot for the system. Same way, if you look in reporting, statutory compliance is something we are keeping out of the thing because statutory compliance is a legal matter and it cannot be trusted with what human being has to compile the reports, check it thoroughly, do it multiple level of vetting, and then submit it to the statutory authorities. We cannot trust bot for it because data has to be seen from multiple prisms, checked it out before submission. Same if I go on IT, service desk and desktop support being the low hanging fruit can be automated to a large extent. But we won't trust bot to manage our network. Even though they are capable, we still want humans to have keep an eye over it. Application backup, database admin, it depends upon our risk appetite. And secondly, do we require bot for it is another question. Application backup is in any case automated using inherent tools in the IT system. So there may not be any need also. So now I am taking an example of typical RPA candidates for a manufacturing company, which I am dividing into quick wins, effort reduction, internal service for IT, and advanced application. The way it happens is quick wins will take it up at the first, then we'll do effort reduction or the internal customer IT, and then finally go on to the advanced application. A typical thing, quick win will include forex rate update, fixed asset code creation, purchase order or sale order creation using Excel upload, monthly system cleanup by closing up unwanted production order, sale order, purchase requisition, reservations. So that system health is there. We shouldn't have order created in, let's say, 2016 open in our system because it's not good for the system hygiene. Some of the effort reduction could be bank account reconciliation. Theoretically, here the bot can log into our bank website, download the statement, generate a report from a bank statement from our ERP, reconcile, and shoot off the email of the difference. But typically, people don't do that full level automation. They don't trust the bot to go onto our bank account. The bank account access will be there with the treasury folks only. They'll download the report, they'll keep it at a designated location, and bot will do the reconciliation. Customs duty booking, another classic case that we get the data from custom department when we file a bill of entry. And based on that, we have to book the customs duty paid in our system. It's a quite tedious process because we have to book the customs duty at every purchase order line. So it's a good candidate for automation. During import order, at times people are booking cost being paid to multiple service providers. That is one who has done the international leg, one who has helped us at the port, one who has done the domestic leg, that is from the port to our premises. So all that bill booking, etc., we can do using bot beforehand, because before we do the GRN, all this cost has to be in place, and some service provider is taking the initiative and providing us the data so we can automate it. A very big sweet spot is the supplier bill booking automation. Reading the supplier bill PDF, the bot can simply book the bill. There are many such cases. If I go on to the internal service, password reset, download the data from master data portal and create extend material codes. In IT department, there is lot of repetitive testing is going on. So we can trust the bot to do this repetitive testing for us. So if we have got a bot, we can train them for repetitive testing and consolidate our automation footprint in one tool, rather than having a separate testing automation tool such as Selenium or Rational Rose. Advanced automation may include download data from GST portal and supplier invoice reconciliation. This is much more elaborate exercise than bank account, and hence I have separated it out into advanced part. Another beautiful application which I was associated was that bot goes and trawls the data and looks for the adverse customer comments. Typically, we go on website like mouthshut.com and give our feedback. There, due to our privacy, our emails, etc., are not visible. Still, bot will scrape the data. They'll get a name. They'll try to find out from the customer master whether the person who is giving 1 rating or 2 rating, can I get the details of this customer? And if there is a possible hit, the bot compiles that data and sends it to the human being for taking the action. And typically, we have seen that if your secondary sales data is well into the system, the advanced remark tracking may give you accuracy of the tune of say 30 to 50%. So out of, let's say, 100 adverse remarks, between 30 to 50 adverse remarks will be able to find the probable person and will be able to reach that person and resolve that their issue. This is the next topic. So far, we have talked predominantly about screenscaping bot. That's not what bot does. The bot can do the OCR using digital eye and convert the images, say PDF, into text data, which can be used for the further processing. A typical example is the supplier invoice processing. The supplier provides us the invoice. Each supplier invoice is a different from other. And we cannot force the supplier to provide us the invoice in the format we desire. So whatever data we get, if we give the 5 invoices to the bot, feed it, the bot learns exactly where to look what, the PO number, whether it is in the right hand side corner or left hand side, where to find the purchase order, which column is the rate, which column is quantity, and bot will learn and it will start automating. A higher version is AI ML driven automation. I have come across very few applications. I would like to cite one of the best application I have come across. We all have heard about Airbnb. Many of us would have accessed their facilities also. So if a property wants to get enrolled at Airbnb, they have to fill up a detailed questionnaire about the property, answer about each room, what are the facilities in a room, provide photograph of each room, and the human being checks out whether what is mentioned in the questionnaire matches with the what is been provided. Like for example, if I have mentioned that in room number 1 there is a mini freeze, mini refrigerator, the photograph should bear it out that there is a photograph of a mini refrigerator over there. So AI ML driven automation was done for Airbnb by one of the RPA vendors so that it validates out the property and prepares the checklist whether everything is okay or something is missing. Okay, so now process selection for RPA is a phase section 2. So I'll pause. If there are any questions on this, I would like to take it up.
Yeah, Jatin sir.
Yeah, please, Sonali.
So can you tell which are the major industries who have adopted RPA so far?
See, there is nothing like RPA is an industry agnostic thing. Any industry can adopt it. Fin BFSI is the major user. Manufacturing is a big time user. By manufacturing, I mean everything: discrete, pharma, electronics, FMCG, CPU, anything and everything. Oil and gas, anybody can use it because these are, you find an opportunity and you develop the automation for it. See, if you look at it at a fundamental level, quest for automation is as old as the invention of IT or even predates it. IT was an answer to automation needs, isn't it?
Right, right, sir.
Any other question?
Sir, who are the major vendors for RPA?
Major vendors are Automation Anywhere, UiPath.
Okay. And there's
Blue Prism. Yeah, thanks, Rajesh. I missed that out. Blue Prism.
there is
Even
one question.
nowadays, ERP vendors come up with the automation within their or ERP, their own RPA. SAP has come up with their own bot store having some 500 odd bots.
Okay. There is a question from Swanand sir. When to use Selenium for testing versus RPA?
See, about functional testing, RPA is having a benefit, but RPA cannot do performance testing. For performance testing, Selenium or rational rows is required. But in functional testing, Selenium or rational rows, the way we develop the test scripts and Selenium or rational rows executes it, the same can be done in RPA also. So typically, if you are having a major IT infrastructure encapsulated in an ERP system where you don't have to do any performance testing because your server sizing is right, then you can do everything in RPA. But if you have got a website where you want to do repeated performance testing, load testing, then Selenium or rational rows is required. Any further?
Okay. So, sir, does that mean that there is no benchmark for RPA or benchmarks cannot be done for RPA?
RPA mimics the humans, correct? So each bot will represent one human being, and it will mimic like human is doing the data entry. Tuck, 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 tuck. So RPA cannot do a mimic denial of service attack, isn't it? RPA cannot mimic a scenario where 50,000 users are accessing our website.
Right, right, sir.
Any further questions, or shall I move on?
We can move, sir. No more questions.
Okay, thanks, Sonali. Okay. Okay. So where to find good candidates? The first characteristic is process should be standardized. If the process is different across the divisions, then we'll have multiple versions of the automation, and it's not a good thing to happen unless each division is really large and theoretically a company by itself. If a division is a 1,000 crore or even 500 crore division, then they may have their own processes, their own idiosyncrasies, their own ways of working, and we have to automate it. But if I am a, let's say, 100 CR kind of a company, then having 5 divisions, I would expect reasonable degree of commonality of process. Otherwise, automating that process using RPA is an stretched out exercise. The process has to be repetitive with minimum exceptions. If there are far too many exceptions, then process is not a good candidate. The process has to be transactional in nature. Either I am reading, adding the data, or editing the data, or extracting the data and massaging the data. And there should be a reasonable workload also. There is no point in automating a process that I am generating a report for cost auditor only once a year. I am generating some 10 reports and compiling them in Excel and presenting a report to the cost auditor. So for this kind of an exercise, there is no point in doing it because I am doing it only once a year. And the effort I take for building that might consume effort of 2 decades of cost audit reporting. In terms of complexity, the process should be straightforward, but it should have sufficient meat in it. Except the exceptions like password reset, which is an entity by itself. Otherwise, the process should have some meat in it. It should require some logic. And if the process requires human discussion, etc., we cannot automate it. And if the process is fairly automated, then again it becomes a poor candidate for RPA. It's like it's difficult to improve upon the perfection, isn't it? If humans are doing the process, we can replace it by bot. But inherently, if the process has been automated within that IT system, then bot may not add any value or limited value to it. Looking at the good candidates, what are our blockers? From the business, the first blocker is processes which are well automated. If the process or the underlying system is undergoing change, enhancement, replacement, then there is no point in automating the current process. Let's say we are going to scrap our existing departmental IT systems, inbuilt systems, and go in for, say, SAP or Oracle EBs, then there is no point in automating the processes in our current IT infrastructure. We'll wait for the ERP implementation to be completed, implementation to stabilize, and we'll look for fresh opportunities. From a technical side, human judgment or fuzzy logic is a big blocker. If a website requires CAPTCHA or OTP, we cannot do it. So it will prelude out lot many government websites. You will not be able to log in into majority of government websites. Handwritten input is a strict no-no. So what are the perspectives for automation? As we know, productivity, cost, accuracy, flexibility, scalability, risk and compliance, these are our drivers. But from these drivers, we don't get the candidates. We require a slightly different lens. So which are the lenses? The first lens is work with different systems. The user is extracting out the data from system X, massaging it a bit and pasting it into system Y. This is a candidate for automation. If a user is consistently working with an Excel, it's a candidate for automation. Here the automation may take a slightly different format, like providing a data warehouse with a good visualization tool so that user doesn't have to generate the report. That's also an automation. Cross-referencing the data from system X to Y. This is the first lens. Second lens is follow-up. If where you are doing the follow-up, so you are following up with the customer or vendor for material or payments. So automation may work in terms of sending out the automatic emails. Process cost reduction is a good candidate in a way that if you know that this process is not a working to optimal and it requires lot of human intervention to make the process work, it's naturally a good candidate. If you want to increase the service level or reduce the error rework, that's a candidate. Straight workflow based decision making, escalation management, a simple thing, just a moment. In many websites, if you type out the comment, the digital assistant reads the stars you have given and they react to it. If you give a 5 star, you'll get a nice flowery response that thanks for your good review. You have made our day. If there is a 1 star, there will be a pop-up that can you leave your coordinates so that we can get in touch with you and understand how can we make your as well as other customers experience better. So beneath that there is a automation engine somewhere. Chatbot, which you see on many fintech websites, that's also a kind of a process automation. Escalation management, sending out the emails when the threshold is breached. Report generation is a very big candidate for automation. We take out the reports, 2 reports, we merge them, we massage the data, and we send it out to various stakeholders. It's a tailor-made opportunity for automation. So from where the RPA will pay it for itself. Direct employee cost saving, in my experience, I have come across very limited cases, that too mainly overseas, where the employee cost is higher to justify out the bot. In task-based automation, it will not do, but in intelligent automation, employee cost saving may be achieved. For example, if people are punching out the supplier invoices, the bot can pay for itself, because we are eliminating that pool of workforce. Indirect savings are there for task-based as well as intelligent automation. You can enhance the SLS, TAT, error and rework reduction. These are the definite payoffs. Okay, so I have come to end of section 2. So there is around 5 minutes to 11, which is our scheduled break. So Sonali, can you share the questions, please?
Yes, sir. We have a question from Rajesh. And he's asking if RPA is effective when integrated with legacy ERP or third-party web-based systems.
The RPA can be connected with legacy ERP as well as web-based system. Both are possible. See, ERP will be the backbone for majority of the industries. So it will throw up its own list of candidates for automation. Similarly, about the website also, you can scrape the data. The example of Forex I cited earlier, it's a third-party website. Let's say if I want a rate of Forex, I may go to RBI website or Economic Times or a Bloomberg website, and I extract out the rate and I punch it out. Then I take the rate, I tabulate it in an Excel, and I go on to my core ERP and I do it. So I am accessing the ERP also, and I am accessing the website also. Similarly, about the review system, there also I access both the things. Firstly, I access the website and found out the bad reviews, as well as whatever details I could determine of the reviewer. And then I queried my customer database to find out if I can get a match. So RPA is effective on all the platforms because it is a screen-based automation. Any next further questions? Hello?
Yes, sir. We have one more question from Mehul. And he's asking what is the difference between RPA and intelligent automation?
See, RPA is a tree, and intelligent automation and task-based automation are two branches. If you are automating a simple process of data entry by taking the data from Excel and going into a IT system and punching it out, or scraping the data from a website, these are all tasks you are performing. There is no inherent intelligence in it. So we call it a task-based automation. And intelligent automation includes digital eye, wherein you read the PDF and do the supplier invoice booking, or that Airbnb example I have cited, where there is a heavy dependency on AI ML. So that's the intelligence is built into the bot to do automate a complex task. Mehulji, I hope I have answered your question. If you have any further cross question, please.
Yeah. So this is like the advanced RPA, sir, which you had
Correct, correct,
mentioned earlier, right?
correct.
Okay. So there's one more question, and they're asking if there is any agriculture application of RPA from Mohan.
Oh, see, robotic process automation, by its definition, gets restricted to IT systems. If you think about the manual work, then there are robots and the field of robotics, which is totally different field. And I have no expertise in it. But there could be some robots doing some activity in field if the field size is large. But I cannot answer that question. It's beyond my expertise.
Okay, so there's one more question from Naushad, sir. Is the underlying integration of robots with software through API, and what is the technology used?
No. The automation is, Naushadji, not via API. We are doing a GUI level integration. We, so to say, losing a use term, scrape the screen and mimic the action. For example, if a user is punching in a, let's say, sales order, which all field the user is going. So firstly, the user will select the order type, the details like which division the order pertains to, the customer code, and then punches out the multiple lines like material code, quantity, rate, delivery schedules at the further level of granularity. So if that data is available, we can punch create this automation at a screen level by finding out in which field the user is doing the data entry in which order. So if the screen layout changes, or a report layout changes, the automation fails. Because let's say in some systems, the user can change the screens a bit by adjusting the sequence in which the user wants to do the data entry. So if I have automated where the quantity is the fifth field and it gets replaced by rate, I'll punch the quantity in the rate field and robot will be now wiser for it, because both are a amount field and robot will not get to know anything. Because this is a screen level thing. We are not touching the core of the system and we are only building a kind of automation layer on the existing screens.
Got it, sir.
If we
So
are going
there's,
to, okay, yeah, please go ahead.
sorry, sir. So please continue.
If we are going to do a API based integration, then we do it between the two systems or within the system itself, and we don't resort to RPA at all. We'll get into the native environment of the IT system and develop the API based integration. Any further questions?
Yes, there's a lot of interest in this section, sir. So there's
Yeah.
one more question. RPA is an upcoming, mature, or declining field because companies like UiPath are not doing much marketing compared to earlier. So this is from Swanand. If you could please answer this
Yeah,
also.
yeah. I feel it's a mature technology. There are up-to number of use cases available for doing anything and everything. And RPA has to have always been a competition with the native automation using the APIs of the IT systems. So it will not have a very large market also, but it will have its own niche where it can sustain and be there. It will not decline, but I would say it's a mature thing.
Okay, thank you, sir. No more questions on this section.
Okay. So
Thank you, Jatin sir. We will take a small break of 15 minutes. Now it is 11 o'clock, so we will be back at around 11:15. Hello.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. We'll meet at 11:15 again.
Welcome all after a small break. Feedback link will be provided in the chat box. Request all participants to provide your feedback so that we can incorporate changes in our coming sessions. PDU details will be provided to all participants through mail IDs as per attendance. Go to Jatinji, sir.
Thanks, Girish. Welcome back, the participants. Let me share my screen. Okay. Is my screen visible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And am I perfectly audible again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we'll go into the advanced considerations. So far, we have only seen that what are the good points about RPA. Now we'll get into the gray areas of RPA, that when RPA will score, how it will score, when to go for RPA, and when to even avoid the RPA. It's not that RPA is a short medicine for all the illnesses. There are certain medicines which work better in certain other conditions. So we should be aware about that also. Okay. So there are four considerations we'll take. One is the speed of automation. Second is the process view. Third is we'll spend a bit of time on native versus RPA based automation. And last is about automation tool selection. Even if we want to automate a process, there are wide variety of tools available. So which tool to use it? Oh, sorry. First, let's start with the transaction speed. The human being will beat the bot hollow at an individual transaction level. Why that happens is, if we are doing a data entry, then human being can detect that the screen has moved, the cursor has moved from field X to field Y at least some time earlier than the bot. Bot, bot will take its own time. Typically, what happens when we design the RPA is the bot will keep on checking whether the cursor has moved or not. And that checking will happen after, say, 10 millisecond, 20 millisecond. So human being is faster than bot by that amount, and it will keep on happening at each field. So at a cumulative level, for individual transaction, humans will beat the bot hollow. Plus, humans can use shortcuts which bot can't. Bot does not have access to Control C, Control V. Bot will, if bot has to copy the thing, it will select and it will go on to the copy button and the paste button rather than doing Control C, Control V. So humans are much faster at an individual transaction level, but per day or per shift basis, humans are slow because humans tend to take the breaks which bot don't take. Bot can work 24/7. So at a per day basis, bot will beat the humans hollow. So if your transaction volume is low or screen is pretty complicated, humans, perhaps it's not a very good candidate, especially at a low volumes. Let's take a process view having 5 steps: task 1, task 2, task 3, task 4, task 5. And to complete the process, the human or the bot has to complete all 5 tasks in sequence. If and for some reason task 3 is not amenable for automation, let's say it requires a captcha or it requires a human judgment, so what happens is we require a human being for task 3, and we say that let us automate task 1, 2, 4 and 5. It will not work out very well. Because what will happen to that human being is waiting for the task 3 to come and execute, task 3 to come and execute. So we are not eliminating the human being, but we are underutilizing the human being. So it doesn't work out well. I had an opportunity to do a BPS scoping for RPA candidates in a healthcare BPO. Here, precisely the same condition appeared. We checked around 1,000 odd processes and we were forced to reject all and say that, look, there are no proper candidates for RPA automation. And here we had two more complexities. The first complexity was that the BPO workers were paid maybe say 10,000, 15,000 per month. So there was no cost benefit under any circumstances. And secondly, the environment under which they worked was accessing the customer systems using Citrix, which itself is a slow system. So there was absolutely no justification. And after spending days and weeks together, we had to walk out from that place empty handed just because of task 3. So now we'll compare native versus RPA based automation. What is native? What I mean by native automation? Native automation is the automation I build in my core systems. Say my ERP, like say SAP. And RPA based automation is I am trying to build an automation within ERP or ERP and some other system or ERP and some website, whatever I am trying to do, but I am using automation tool. In the first case, I am using the native functionality of the tool, using the language of the product. I am trying to develop some automation. Whereas here I am resorting to some external automation tool. So how the balance tilts under which circumstances? Let us see that. Before that, let's spend a moment understanding how to classify the COTS, that is commercially application systems, into two categories. One is automation friendly and one is automation unfriendly. If the product provides the automation tool for almost all the transactions, then it's an extremely friendly system. In unfriendly, compared to that, automation tool is provided for limited or probably no transactions. Just to give an example, I have worked extensively in SAP. So in SAP, we get a ready-made structure to create any transaction. Let's say I want to create a sale order. I get a section with sale order header, sale order lines, then pricing conditions, customer details. So and there are all the fields required are already provided. So I only have to map out firstly at a function level that if I have got a data available in this template, if I put this field over here, this field over here, I can create a sale order. And then I pass on the data to my technical consultant who will build the automation. So such facility, if it is available for almost all the products, then I would like to do majority of the work within the ERP itself. But if I have no access to such automation tool, then I have to resort to RPA. How does that tool behave? The tool in friendly system tool will ensure that all the underlying tables are updated, and it is really fast. In an unfriendly system, the tool mimics the human data entry behavior, tuck, 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 tap करके जाएगा, and it will be slow. In the friendly behavior, it is simply filling the data in a complex structure and pushing it into the underlying tables at a massive speed. Third is the knowledge of table structure. If in automation friendly system, we don't need to know exactly which all tables are updated. If we can fill up the structure and create the data, that's it. The principle and the tool ensure that all the relevant tables are updated. If you have got an unfriendly system, you have to know the table structure and write a really complex logic. In our example, what will happen is I have to write a logic to update the sale order header table. So when I update that table, I get the sale order number. I have to pass on in the line the sale order number and the line number or the item number, and create individual line number 1, line number 2, line number 3 for 3 items which I am creating the sale order. Even more important than the table structure knowledge is the guarantee. The table consistency is guaranteed in a friendly ERP by the product principle. What does the product principle say? That if you use this structure and you create a SO or a production order or a purchase order or a bill booking, rest assured that everything will work fine as if you have done it from the front end of the system. And in unfriendly systems, the table consistency is not guaranteed by the product principle. Example, SAP is an extremely friendly system. Oracle EBS is extremely unfriendly. Just to give an example, in Oracle EBS, I had done a bit of automation. So if I have to use the native automation and I want to skip 2 columns, I don't want, let's say I have to fill in the data in 5 fields. And at the end of the 5th field, I am go to the next record, next record, next record, and I create a bunch of records. So if I have to keep 2 fields empty, I can't say that these 2 fields are empty. I have to keep those 2 columns vacant also. That's the degree of unfriendliness was there. Okay, so the takeaway for us is, if the application is automation friendly, we'll do majority of the automation within the application itself. And if it is unfriendly, we will be using the RPA to the hilt. Now let's get into the scenarios and see where what fits. Now for the friendly applications, if transaction volume or the frequency is very high, we'll go via native automation. Let's say I want to do a transactions at a 5-minute frequency. I can't guarantee, unless I put a dedicated bot, that it will be available at every 5 minutes. If I have to do data upload from Excel or read an email and do the transaction, well, native automation is the way to go. But if I am forced to do data manipulation, I, I, I have got an Excel available from the user, or I have downloaded the 2 reports, but I have to merge the data. Well, the native ERP cannot do. Native ERP will say that I'll create a first report to generate the data in a desired format. But if you can't do that kind of a data in the desired format and you have to resort to Excel manipulation, then you are forced to go via RPA, because RPA can call up Excel macros and execute them beautifully. This is a very big scoring point of RPA over native automation. The second plus for RPA is data download from website. Native automation can't do that. SAP cannot go onto the website and do anything. For that, like Forex rate, you need an RPA. PDF reading, again, call is in RPA code. Supplier invoice booking. That automation cannot be done unless you provide a vendor portal for the vendors to do the data entry. They do all the work for us and then we take the data and push it into it. If it's a complex automation, it's a judicious call between the two. We have to see plus and minuses in a case-to-case basis, as compared to the earlier scenario where I had given a clear-cut guidelines, the ball is lying in which code. Report compiling and mailing. See, at a first sight, it feels like ERP can do that. ERP as a report generation facility. You can schedule a background job. It will generate the report. And it will pick up the mailing list for the report and it will mail it also. But let's consider a case. Let's say we want to publish a sales flash to all our sales stakeholders. Our hypothetical organization has, let's say, 10 lines of business and has presence at 40 locations. So we'll end up doing 10 into 40, say 400 version of the report. So a particular group of individuals will get a report for LOB1 and location 1, then LOB1 location 2, LOB2 location 3, so on and so forth. We'll have some 400, 450 permutation combinations. Because there is a hierarchy also, that area manager should get report for multiple locations for which that person is responsible. Zonal manager should get for multiple areas, and all India manager should get for all the lines, and CEO should get for all the lines. Theoretically, we can schedule 500 jobs in ERP and do the needful, but it becomes an extremely resource intensive function in the ERP, because 500 jobs have to be monitored by the ERP itself, even though it is doing in the background. So each report will get fired, the data will get generated, it will get mailed out. So all that will happen in ERP. It's a resource intensive. The other option could be that we develop a report, the sales flash for all India, all divisions, and we put it in an FTP location, be it an FTP, SharePoint, whatever. So this location, putting the report ends the ERP transaction. ERP does work only once. Now the bot will take over. It will take that data. It will filter the data, create the new Excel files based on the combination, read the recipient list for that combination from some another Excel file and email it to them, so that the drudgery is passed on from the ERP to the bot. Moving on. If it is an unfriendly application, the choice is very clear. Everything falls in the RPA bucket. There is nothing in the native bucket. Now we'll go on to one more consideration, that is process complexity and RPA tool selection. Earlier, I have mentioned RPA tools as A, Unipath, Blue Prism. They are the tools which are commercially available, and one can also create a simple tools using Python. If your process is very simple, you don't require this tool. You can create your Python-based automation. Because if you buy a RPL tool, you have to pay the license fees, AMC, whatnot. But if you develop such Python-based automation, you can do in-house at much lower cost. Continuing with my example of the Sales Flash. Sales Flash is a very good candidate for Python-based automation. I don't need a AI or A or UI path for doing this. Let me share an experience of mine. There is a all India captive reporting hub of a very large, well-respected multinational in India. So the task of that reporting hub is that they generate all types of reports for their global company and share it with their principals, the relevant stakeholders. And they work 3 shifts, that the report of India are generated from, let's say, 12 o'clock Indian Standard Time to 6 o'clock Indian Standard Time, or so that while the Indian stakeholders are asleep, at the end of the day, the reports are generated and sent to them before they resume the work next day, and they are available. Similarly, they work in all the time zones and generate the report. So they floated a requirement of 1,000+ bots. And the organization for which we worked was having a very good practice in all the tools and was selected for POC. And we came to know that this organization had one of the tool available, so we were very confident that we'll be able to deliver. But when we went for the pilot kickoff, what we discovered is that they wanted to develop all the 1,000 bots for the application I have cited using Python. And it was a deal breaker for us on a skill availability metrics. And we couldn't do any business over there because we didn't have sufficient Python skills in terms of numbers to comply with this 1,000 bot automation project. So takeaway is that you need not do everything in AI or UiPath or Blue Prism. You may have to look at Python also to save cost. Okay. So any questions, Sonali? Yeah.
Sir, no questions, but thank you for educating us about the areas where we should consider RPA and areas where we should also not consider RPA, and what are the alternate technologies available today instead of RPA.
See, it's not an alternative technology. Python is also automation technology. I can't call it an only thing, it's not a product. Automation Anywhere or a UiPath or Blue Prism is a product. Python is a platform which you can use and develop it.
Right. Thank you for the clarification, sir.
Okay. So my last topic is license compliance. This is license compliance. I am going to talk about license compliance with the product principles stipulations for the usage, whether I am doing a robotic process automation or a native automation. no matter what I am going to do, I have to ensure that I don't fall foul with my product principle, because consequences of there are pretty bad. So let's go ahead. So typically what happens is, when we buy a IT system, we have to sign an end user agreement with the product principal, which governs the functional entitlement, that is, which all functionalities of the product we can use. The product may have so many functionalities, but we have procured only limited set of functionalities, and terms of usage, in terms of how many users, etc., and what kind of user. But rest assured that in all agreements, the product principal mean is a by user is a human being. They are not worried whether the human using the system is an employee, on rolls, on contract, partner employee, outsourced employee, whomsoever. It's not a matter of concern, but he should be a human being having two hands, two legs, so on and so forth. RPA user is not covered by this agreement. At times, it is explicitly prohibited also. Because if you use an bot, you will be able to substitute n number of employees by one bot, and that means a huge revenue leakage for them. If I talk of an ERP companies like say SAP or Oracle eBase, they are having a peculiar scenario. Practically all the organizations who require their product have bought their or their competitors' product. The ERP market is fully saturated. Anybody who needs an ERP is having one. So what their revenue stream is, there are only two revenue streams. One is they poach the customer of other their competing ERPs into them, but it's a two-way street. If I poach two of my competitor product, competitor will poach one of my customers. The second strategy is to sell additional licenses for the additional functionality or the additional users. And this is the only strategy they are available to earn the fresh sale revenue besides the AMC revenue. So they are very, very finicky about such revenue leakages. And day by day, I am seeing that their audits are becoming more and more stringent, and they are not willing to let go of smallest infringement of the licensing norms. If they find smallest loophole, they want to come down like a tons of brick on you and come up with a huge penalty. It's like this. If they have come across violation one day, they'll go up to 5 years and multiply out and give you a big bill. And it's up to then the customer who has infringed upon to somehow convince or make some deal and get the things streamlined. So when we are going to do RPA, we have to be very critical about this agreement part. And that's move ahead. Now, how the license is structured. First and foremost is an enterprise license. If you get enterprise license by paying through your nose, you are very clear there cannot be any violation because you can do whatever you want for it. The second type of license is KPI based license. I have come across a product, typically in planning software. I have come across a product X, which says that if I am going to plan for inventory, then I am going to charge on a percentage of inventory being planned by me. So if you declare that my inventory is, let's say, 100 CR, then 1% of that will be my charge, and I'll be charging you 1 CR per year. And then I don't care how many users you deploy, whether that users are human or robots, I don't care about it. A second KPI based license I have come across is that I allowed you to use this license for your one division. And for one division, this is my fees. So what you do within one division, I don't care. Third variant could be per physical location. If I want to do planning for my factory X, I have paid the license, I do planning for that. So again, KPI based license is good scenario for us. Third is a user based license, which comes in two flavors, concurrent and named. In concurrent users, what happen is it's like a parking space. Let's say we have got a office in a multi-storied building, and along with our office space, we have got, let's say, 10 parking space. So it means that only 10 employees of ours can park within the office premises. And we may have 15 employees we have authorized to park. So first 10 can park and balance 5 will have to fend for themselves. And last, so what happens is that we may create n number of users. We may give the parking authority instead of 15 to 20, 25, but we can bring in only 10 cars. Last is named user. Means all the user whose name appear can only log in with their login ID and password. So in named user, there is a clear-cut issue with the automations. RPA, if you create an RPA user who is moving across XYZ in terms of a day and doing n number of things at a phenomenal space, pakad mein aayega, that person will be caught and audit violation will happen. In concurrent user also, even though we have got 5 cars, we can't bring in a truck. So there also there will be a concern. So how to go about doing it? What are the compliance strategies? Just a moment, please. If a product vendor is selling specific licenses, then go and buy those licenses. Just to give an example, let's say we create a website using .NET and allow all our dealers to come on that website and create a sale order, which we take into our ERP and process it. So there is an indirect usage happening. If we integrate that storefront with our ERP directly, then the product principal may come an object that, look, you should have license for all your dealers, even though they are not coming into my ERP, they are indirectly using my ERP and they should have the license in my ERP. So what we may do is, at times product principals sell user specific licenses, because those dealers are not going to do too many things within our ERP. They are only going to create the sale order. So for such limited usage, we create a license, get a license. If it is available, we buy it and we become compliant. The second is automation compliant license. I'll come to it in the end. because it's a slightly complex topic. So I'm skipping it for the while. Let's say we want to share information with the supply chain. So we can't provide them the license. What we may do is we may generate the document or the report and share it with them using automation. To give an example, when a sales invoice gets generated, we want to share it with the customer. So our invoice printing program may be modified to build an automation that invoice copy gets emailed to the customer while printing the invoice. So this automation is getting triggered via a human being who has access to a session, who is manually selecting the invoice to be printed, and something happens in the background, so it is a compliant thing. Similarly, if you want to share outstanding statement with customer or vendor, you may use the automation report sharing automation technique rather than providing them the user IDs. Another interesting thing you can do is slow down RPA. I have used this technique once. The customer didn't want to put the manpower for it. There was a third party system available where all sorts of approvals are done, and on the basis of the approval, the transaction has to happen in their ERP. So what we had done was, in that bot, we have introduced lot of delay and brought down the time almost like a human being. And we used to have a shift roster that in shift 1, user ID X will be using, in shift 2, user ID Y will be using, and in shift 3, user ID Z will be there, and we'll use to roster those users also. And after every hour and a half, the bot used to log off and log in after, say, 10-15 minutes random break. So we are trying to make bot even more like a user, even though we know that we are slowing down the bot and not using it to the hill. But we are only ensuring that the transaction will happen properly within a reasonable time of approval without human intervention. There is one very interesting but slightly gray strategy known as person in the middle. What happens is we have got our storefront developed in .NET or whatever, and we don't want to buy the licenses. Or so typically what we may do is periodically the data will get downloaded. The user will from the storefront download the data onto the desktop of the user, will save it, and using the native automation of the ERP, using a screen, the user will create those sales order. So here our answer is, when the product principal comes, look, this is our core person who gets lot many emails, he calls up the people, this, that, he gets the information, he collates the information in Excel, and rather than punching the sale order, he or she is uploading the sale order using the tool provided by the you. We may get away with this argument if we are smart. So I have mentioned this as a strategy. About now, let's move on to automation compliant license. See, this is a very specific SAP case. Earlier, SAP used to come down on the customers like tons of brick. And in 2000, between 10 to 15, there were two very celebrated cases of SAP where InBev breweries was asked to pay $1 billion for indirect license usage, and they lost the case. SAP could prove the case in the court of law, and InBev brewery was forced to pay, believe it or not, more than $1 billion. So SAP made their point, but they realized that they have won the battle but lost the war. They have lost confidence of too many customers. So what they came up is a automation compliant license. They came up with a concept of digital document. What they say is that if you are going to create such automation, you will charge you X rupees per document created, and we will not bother about the indirect license usage. So if we integrate our storefront, then we have to pay for every sale order created, let's say 10 rupees to SAP. And if we have got such a license, then we are free to create automation the way we want. There is one more strategy which I can't describe, but I can talk. If there are very small automations where the usage is very low, you may take the judicious call and just build it. For example, Forex thing. You have built your automation, nobody will notice it because the time taken will be almost similar between the bot and the humans, and it is happening only once a day by one user. So please go ahead and build it. But if you are building a automation wherein all your sale orders are getting punched by bots, please be careful. Well, that was my last slide. So any questions, I'll be happy to take it.
Yes, Jatin sir, we have a question from Swanand. He's saying, do we have any process mapping tools from RPA or any other vendor to improve the process before automating it?
See, there is a technology known as process mining, which covers this. So what does the process mining tool do? It sits on your, let's say, top of your ERP, and it traces out all your order process document flow from beginning to end and find out which all path it has taken. So for example, if I am doing a purchase order, so the simple path will be purchase order is created, released, I do goods receipt, I do supplier bill booking, and I do supplier payment. That's a straight line path. Now, what are the deviations? The first deviation could be that the order got rejected during the release, and the persons in the release hierarchy said that you get the price change. So there is a process of negotiation which takes time. Then I update master data for the price list. I update, I bring those revised prices back into the purchase order, I submit it, it will get created. So all such things get mapped and you get a nice dashboard out of it in a process dashboard, process mining dashboard. So you can use that mining dashboard to find out in which document type or in which location there are the time is abnormally high, and you can take the corrective action. I had made a presentation on process mining and process discovery maybe 2 years ago in the same PM forum. So you can use tools like, say, Celonoise to do the same. So it will check your current process and map it out the actual process variances, exactly how your process is flowing vis-a-vis the standard process, and you know exactly what to do. If a particular location is very sloppy, you tighten the screws over there so that they fall in the line. I hope I have answered the question.
Yes, sir. So the next question is from Mehul. He is asking what is the expected growth in automation over the coming years?
I don't have official figures, so I can't say.
Okay. So next question is
Automation will be automation, whether with tool or without tool, it is to grow. Or it's a never-ending journey. Let's put it over there.
right, sir. Very well said. Next is from Sushant. He's saying, what are the courses available for learning RPA today?
See, if you want to become a RPA certified, see, there are free courses available on the product vendor sites. So you go register over there and do online courses, and you will get certified in the product vendor courses. And being a student, they may provide you an environment to build some sort of automation as a part of your assignment if you are technically inclined. If not, a functional person like me may skip those technical part and only get certified in the RPA process design. Next, please.
Right, sir. So is there any tool which gives us 100% automation is what Ashfaq is asking.
No, there can't be any tool which can give us 100% automation.
Okay.
Let me put it slightly flippantly. It's better that that tool is not available. Else, what will do? We all will do. We all will become unemployed, isn't it? All the IT professionals. That tool will do everything.
Right, sir. And apart from CAPTCHA, is there any other known function which is not possible with automation?
OTP, first none, because OTP will come to the user's mobile to which the tool will not have access. Another thing is human handwriting. If you are supposed to read some notes and do something, you can't do it. Fuzzy logic, another thing. That's why you don't find RPA tools to prepare the code briefs. If you want to plead something, you may pick up the existing template and you do changes, but still a human mind is reading it and preparing the case, isn't it? AI ML is, they say Dr. Watson can do such things, but it's at a very, very high level, totally different ball game as compared to the RPA.
Okay.
Next.
Can Six Sigma be applied to RPA?
Six Sigma, as in detection and the KPIs, well, there is a KPIs are available. So you know the current performance at a much granular level of the process being automated. But and to that data, you may apply Six Sigma learning and improve the process. Like if a bot is failing repeatedly at a particular point, you may do some sort of a fix over there so that bot becomes that fault tolerant and albeit in paying in terms of a lower throughput. That's a theoretically possible. I am giving a theoretical answer because I have not done a Six Sigma project. So I feel this is how the approach could be.
Okay, got it, sir. We have one last question. Can RPA be integrated with technologies like Microsoft Power Platform?
Power as in Power BI?
Yeah, I
Sorry,
think so. Yeah, it's not, Power BI is not clarified, but I guess that's the question.
see, if
Low code technologies like Microsoft Power.
it can be integrated in a way that you see the report, you can extract the data from the RPA, but it will be front-end integration. As we have been talking all throughout, you will not be able to write a query into the Power BI backend and get the data. You have to execute the report, canned report from the front end and do the needful. That is possible. Any
That's
further?
all. No, that's all about the question, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Jatinji, for this wonderful and knowledgeable session of Robotics Process Automation 2. Give me a minute, sir. On behalf of PMI Mumbai chapter, I would like to present a certificate to you. Please accept this certificate as a token of appreciation for giving us your time and effort and having this knowledgeable session. You will be receiving soft copy of certificate in mail. For the participants, we have recorded this session and you will be able to see today's session in YouTube PMI Mumbai chapter channel in next 2 to 3 days. You won't be able to claim PDUs for watching the recorded session, but for today's session, you can claim PDUs. We'll be sending mailers, and along with the mailer, we'll be sending you the link for providing feedback. So please provide feedback also. Special thanks to Sonali Kedkar, EVP Volunteer Development, and Mr. Sunil and Mr. Tushar for their commitment to the session. Thank you all for joining today's session. Hope you have enjoyed. Have a great day. Thank you. I'm
Girish,
signing off. Yeah, yes, sir.
I would like to thank you and the team for giving me an opportunity to share the presentation. I have a couple of requests. When you share the presentation on YouTube, can I get the link so that I can share it in my network?
Sure, we will provide.
Okay, thanks a lot. And thanks to all of the participants for being such a wonderful and inquisitive ones. I hope I could add to your knowledge. Thanks a lot and have a great day ahead.
Thank you all for.
Thank you, Jatinji.
Thanks a lot.
Girishji.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm signing off. I'm ending the session.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.